Hello everyone, I'm Woman International Master Knarik and I'm using the chesswithknarik.com website to record this video. And I would also like to talk to you about the chess.ie website that we are currently working on. You can also check it out and see the different features that are being added constantly on that website. Now, I would like to show you in today's um, video a miniature played by Bobby Fischer in 1963 against Reuben Fine. And the game went like this. So Bobby Fischer is playing with the white pieces. He played the pawn to e4. So as we said before in a previous video, that a miniature means that it's a small game, it's a short game, and so Bobby Fischer has won the game in a very fast way. So here, let's see. So Bobby Fischer played the knight to f3, attacking the pawn. So very normal defending move is knight to c6, then bishop to c4, and the bishop to c5. Now, here, Bobby Fischer played the pawn to b4. Now, when we give up a pawn in the beginning of the game, in the opening, that will be called a gambit. So usually in some openings, sometimes we want to give up pawns, and in return we get some initiatives. Here, for example, Bobby Fischer decided to play the Evans gambit when he played the pawn to b4, sacrificing the b2 pawn. Here, black should capture this pawn with what to capture. So if they don't want to leave the center pawn, and they don't want to leave the center in general, better to capture with the bishop. And that's what Bobby Fischer's opponent did, captured with the bishop on b4. Here, Bobby Fischer played the pawn to c3, gaining time, attacking the bishop. The bishop moved away, and then Bobby Fischer put the pawn in the center, the pawn to d4. Here, his opponent captured that pawn as well. So this is the second pawn Bobby Fischer is giving. He could have captured that pawn back, but he decided to leave the pawn and castle. So till now, white is 2 pawns down, has sacrificed 2 pawns. Okay, just what happened. Let's fix this one. Okay, so the black with the black pieces, the player with the black pieces captured the third pawn. So here Bobby Fischer already has sacrificed 3 pawns. But what has he got in return? He has castled, and the opponent is a bit far from castling because the knight isn't developed yet. Before black thinks about castling, the knight should be developed first. So here, white started the attack. And the best square to attack, usually the weakest square that our opponent has, or also we have, that we should always take care of in the opening, is the f7 square, because it's only protected by the king. So Bobby Fischer decided to attack that pawn a second time, since already the bishop is attacking it. And he played queen to b3. With queen to b3 now, we have 2 pieces attacking the f7 pawn. So white wants to capture it with a check. So black protected the f7 square with the queen. Here, Bobby Fischer developed a piece and captured back one of the pawns that he had sacrificed. So he had sacrificed 3 pawns. Now he's down 2 pawns only after capturing this pawn. And here, this knight is now going to move to the center with a good move. And at the same time, black can capture this knight, but it's still going to be okay for white, because when black captures it, we can capture it with the queen. And again, we have different opportunities in this game, because here the pawn is being attacked. Our bishop has good options. If the knight moves to f6, we have the pawn push in the center. We have the bishop moving to g5. So we have different good opportunities here, even if white had captured the knight on c3. Even if black had captured the knight on c3, but black didn't capture and instead placed the knight on f6. So here Bobby Fischer decided to open up the e file, and that's a good strategy because, of course, it's a good strategy because the queen and the king are on the e file, and so I want to open up the e file. I want my pawn to go away. And if I want usually to open a file, what are the two ways that I can use? Either I will get my opponent to capture my pawn, or I have to capture a piece with my pawn to move it to another file and clear the e file. So white decided to use the second way, decided to play knight to d5, and here attacking the queen. If the queen moves back, we can continue putting pressure with the bishop to g5, and also pushing the pawn. Many opportunities still are very good for white. So at this point, black decided to capture the knight. Of course, our aim was to capture with the pawn because we want to open the e file, and we capture with the e pawn. And of course, by gaining time, because now we are attacking the knight on c6 as well. So the knight moves to the e file. We want to keep the e file open, so white decided to capture as well, and the queen moved to a square where now white can finish the development of their pieces, develop the last minor piece, basically the bishop on c1 by gaining time. How can white do that? By moving the bishop to b2. By moving the bishop to b2, the queen was attacking our rook, we're protecting it. Now we're attacking the queen with the bishop, our rooks are connected now, and so the black queen moved to g5. Now, what's the reason for the queen moving to g5 is that black didn't want white to capture on g7. Not because it's just a pawn that they don't want to lose, but if we capture the pawn on g7 with our bishop, also the king's movement to the king side is going to be blocked. So the king will only have, let's say, the move to d8 if we happen to check from the e file. So it's important for white to capture that pawn to limit the black king's movement. So white decided to deflect the queen, and Bobby Fischer played the pawn to h4, sacrificing the pawn and capturing the g7 pawn, because this pawn, again, I repeat that it's not allowing, when we capture this pawn, we're not allowing the king to move to the f8 square, and the rook, of course, moved away to g8. Here, white started the direct attack on the king, and just after a few moves, this game was over and started with a check. Now here it doesn't matter, even if the black bishop is going to capture, we don't mind because we're doing a mating attack. The white rook captures, the king moves away, and here the king is completely trapped. All we need to do is find a way to check with our bishop on f6. And Bobby Fischer found the best way to do that. Again, we need to deflect this queen because the queen is the piece stopping the bishop from moving to f6. And Bobby Fischer played the queen to g3. With queen to g3, now this queen can't stay on this diagonal, right? And when the queen captures, white can checkmate. If the queen doesn't capture, okay, what else will black play? What if they decide to capture the bishop? But here almost everything wins, even capturing the queen or capturing the rook. Both are going to be winning in a very short time. Capturing the queen, of course, is the fastest. It's mate in two. Black can only block with a pawn, and here there's also checkmate. So after queen to g3, basically black resigned. So because this was a game that finished very fast, it was less than 20 moves, it's called a miniature.